I have to begin at the place where this revelation first broke through the ordinary world. A quiet night when a prayer turned into something far greater than words. For years, I'd carried a single question that refused to rest. Who do we meet first when we cross from this life into eternity? I used to think about it as a child staring at the ceiling after lights out, wondering what waited beyond the last heartbeat. I never expected the answer to arrive in a dream so vivid, so alive, that it would change how I understand love itself. To tell you how it began, I need to return to a porch drenched in the amber light of 10 summers ago. My grandmother Maria sat beside me, a small Italian woman whose hands always smelled of garlic and whose prayers seemed to pass straight through the sky. She had raised me since my parents' separation when I was 7, filling every corner of our little house with faith strong enough to steady a drifting heart. That night we shared tea, the steam curling in the warm air, and she looked at me with eyes that seemed to remember heaven. I was in my 20s, still uncertain about my future, still arguing with God in my mind. "Jonathan," she said softly, "when my time comes, I'm not worried about meeting God. I already know Him. I'm excited about meeting everyone else." I laughed then, not understanding. 3 days later, she was gone, and her words became a seed that never stopped growing. Every year since, through the ups and downs of faith and work and the strange privilege of portraying Jesus on film, that sentence has followed me like a gentle haunting. What did she mean, excited to meet everyone else? Years passed. Prayer became less of a ceremony and more like late-night conversation with someone who knows all my flaws and loves me anyway. Still, the question stayed. Then, 3 nights ago, exhaustion pressed me down and I prayed the most unguarded prayer of my life. I told Jesus everything: the weight of doubt, the ache of missing her, the fear that maybe we imagine too much about eternity. I whispered, "Lord, what did she mean? Who do we actually meet first when we cross over?" I didn't expect an answer. Usually heaven stays quiet for a while. But that night, the air in my room thickened, charged with something gentle and electric. As I drifted toward sleep, a peace settled over me. Not the fragile kind that breaks with morning, but the deep peace that feels like arms wrapping around you. My last thought before slipping away was a plea: help me understand what you want me to know about eternity. When awareness returned, I was standing somewhere that felt both familiar and entirely new. The atmosphere shimmered with warmth and light, yet there was no sun. The radiance came from everywhere and everything, breathing like a living presence. Imagine the stillness right before dawn, or the hush after a symphony's final note. That was the silence that held me. I wasn't dreaming in pictures. I was inside meaning itself. Then He was there. I didn't need an introduction. Every part of me recognized Him. Jesus stood before me, not distant or blinding, but luminous with tenderness. His eyes carried the memory of every prayer I had ever whispered. Tears slid down my face. Not of sadness, but of recognition. The kind that says, "This is home." "Jonathan," He said, His voice both thunder and whisper, "you've been carrying questions too heavy for your heart to hold alone." I could only nod. The years of wondering, the stones of doubt, all lay exposed between us. "I know you've asked what happens in the first moments after someone leaves their body," He continued. "You've held your grandmother's words for a long time, trying to understand them." He gestured for me to walk with Him. We moved through a landscape that shifted like memory. One moment, the rolling hills of Galilee; the next, a garden bright with colors beyond any earthly palette. Sometimes it felt like stepping through music, each note a field of light. As we walked, He said, "The first encounter after leaving Earth is not what most people expect. Those words carried weight, the kind that bends time. I remembered every set I'd stood on, every line spoken in the role of Christ, every scholar I'd read trying to capture his mystery, and yet none of it prepared me for the simplicity in his tone. This was not the Jesus of scripts and camera lenses. This was the living truth, speaking as one friend to another. Most imagine they'll meet me, or my father, or perhaps an angel at the gate, he said, glancing toward the light-filled horizon. But that's not how love works. Love is personal. Love is relational. Love knows exactly what each soul needs in its moment of crossing. His words sank into me, like seeds finding soil. He went on. The first person someone encounters is the one their heart most needs to see. Maybe a parent, maybe a child, maybe the person who first taught them unconditional love. Emotions surged through me. I thought of Maria, of everyone I'd lost, of all who ache to know their loved ones are safe. This isn't random, Jesus said, joy flickering in his eyes. It's orchestrated by the Father's perfect knowledge of every heart. No bureaucracy, no accident, only design rooted in love. We paused on a ridge that overlooked waters shimmering with living color. I felt the truth of it like warmth against my skin. Tell them, he said gently, that no one crosses alone. Perfect love prepares the welcome. He compared it to a child who falls and runs not to any stranger, but to the arms that feel most safe. My Father ensures that every soul is greeted by the one who can best show them they are home. Understanding bloomed inside me. For the first time, my grandmother's peace made sense. She hadn't been fearless because she knew every answer. She was fearless because she trusted love to handle the questions. We kept walking, and the air seemed alive with stories. I saw in my mind, perhaps in spirit, reunions unfolding. A young woman embraced by her mother, a soldier welcomed by the friend who once saved his life, children running into arms that had waited decades. Jesus' voice wove through the vision like music. Notice how natural it all is, he said. No fear, no confusion. Love has already paved the way. I watched in awe. Every greeting fit perfectly, like keys made for locks. It was clear none of this was coincidence. It was intimate craftsmanship by a creator who knows each heartbeat. I asked about those who felt unloved, those who walked through life alone. His expression softened until it was almost sorrow. No soul is without love, he answered. Sometimes the one who greets them is someone they hardly noticed. A teacher, a neighbor, a stranger who prayed for them. Love connects far beyond what earthly eyes can see. Then he showed me a scene that stole my breath. A weary man embraced by a woman radiant with affection. That's his schoolteacher, Jesus said. She prayed for him every day for 30 years. In that instant, I understood that every small act of care is a thread in eternity's design. Every genuine kindness, he continued, creates connections that outlive death itself. People think relationships end, but love continues to build upon itself forever. I wanted to remember every word, every image. The realm itself seemed to pulse with agreement, as if the air rejoiced at the truth being spoken. My love is personal, Jesus said, his gaze meeting mine again. I could greet every soul myself, but love chooses the greeting that feels most like home. He lifted his hand, and around us the landscape shimmered, revealing a world where connection was the language of existence. In that moment, I realized, heaven isn't endless stillness before a throne. It's the flourishing of every pure relationship ever formed. Love there doesn't replace what we knew on earth. It fulfills it. I stood in silence, my heart burning with comprehension, when he added one more sentence that would carry me into the next part of this revelation. The first reunion, he said, is only the beginning. And as the light around us deepened into something like dawn, I felt the story of eternity opening before me, waiting to be understood. The light around us seemed to breathe with purpose as Jesus continued walking beside me, every step revealing more of this living world that pulsed with love. The air shimmered as if creation itself was listening. I felt like a child again, clinging to each word, afraid that if I blinked, the truth would fade. Jonathan, he said gently, the first encounter is designed with such care that no soul could mistake it. Love always recognizes love. I watched as scenes unfolded like ripples on water. A young man emerged, looking dazed, as if he had just stepped from a long, deep sleep. Then, from the horizon of light, a figure appeared. His mother. She ran toward him, laughter mixing with tears, and when their arms met, the entire atmosphere brightened as though heaven itself celebrated. There was no confusion, no fear, only homecoming. Jesus turned to me. See how natural it is? That peace is not earned. It's prepared. His words melted into the air like warmth spreading through my chest. I realized that every act of love on earth was not just remembered. It was alive, growing, waiting for the right moment to reappear. I asked him quietly, what about those who never felt loved, those who lived in loneliness? He looked toward a soft glow forming nearby. Out of it stepped an elderly woman, her face radiant with tenderness. Before her appeared a man whose shoulders sagged with the weight of forgotten years. She reached out and touched his face, and he gasped in wonder, his eyes filling with childlike tears. That man, Jesus said softly, never knew kindness, but she prayed for him every day when he was a boy in her classroom. He never knew her prayers built a bridge that outlived both their years on earth. And now, love has chosen her to greet him home. My heart trembled. It was as if the laws of heaven were rewriting everything I thought I knew about time, about connection. Jesus smiled at my silence. Every act of genuine love, he said, every whisper of kindness, every prayer spoken in secret, it all continues here. Love doesn't disappear. It simply changes form. I thought of my own grandmother, of her quiet prayers and the way she'd hold my hand when words failed. I understood now. Her love had been preparing me for this moment long before I ever dreamed of it. The world around us began to shift again. I saw more reunions, souls running, laughing, weeping with joy. A father reunited with his daughter, a soldier embraced by the friend who once shielded him in battle, a young girl welcomed by a grandmother she'd never met. Each meeting was a universe of its own. Every embrace was a story of love restored. There are no random greetings here, Jesus said. Every moment is composed by my Father with absolute precision. Each arrival is a symphony of love conducted by His hand. I could feel that truth like a heartbeat under my feet. The ground itself seemed alive with purpose. Jonathan, he continued, the first encounter is not the end of their story. It's the opening of a greater one. It is the doorway to community, to belonging, to eternity itself. His words echoed through me like a river's current. He stopped walking, turned toward me, and looked straight into my soul. This is why I brought you here. Not so you would see heaven's beauty, but so you would understand its order. Love governs everything. Love chooses, love prepares, love restores. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words refused to form. Let me show you more, he said. He gestured, and instantly we were surrounded by light, shaped like living stories. I saw souls arriving from earth, each one met by the person whose love had shaped them most. One was a father greeting a son he'd never met. Another was a woman embraced by the friend who had stood by her through her darkest nights. Every meeting carried the same quiet miracle: recognition. I asked, do they know immediately where they are? Do they remember everything? Yes, Jesus answered, but not in the way you understand memory. They don't remember with their minds. They remember with their hearts. It's instant and perfect. When they see the one greeting them, they don't think. They know. They know they are home. His eyes filled with light as he continued. Imagine seeing someone you loved, but not as they were in their final years. Tired, sick, burdened, but as they were always meant to be. That's what happens here. Love restores what the world eroded. I watched as faces changed before my eyes. Wrinkles smoothing, eyes brightening, postures lifting with youth that was not of age but of essence. Each soul became more of who they had always been. Then Jesus said something that stopped my breath. This is how I've always seen you, Jonathan. Not as a man of mistakes and striving, but as the soul your father dreamed into being. That's how I see everyone. In eternity, you will all finally see each other this way too. Tears came without warning, not from sadness, but from the unbearable beauty of being fully known. Perfect understanding, he said, eliminates judgment. When you see someone's whole story, the pain that shaped them, the hope that carried them, you no longer condemn. You only love. I thought of every misunderstanding, every fractured relationship on earth, every word I had wished to take back. Is that what forgiveness looks like here? I asked. It's what forgiveness feels like, he replied. Instant, complete. Not because rules demand it, but because truth leaves no room for bitterness. When love becomes sight, all fear dissolves. The world shimmered again. I saw two souls running toward each other, once enemies, now radiant with laughter. They collided in an embrace so fierce it sent ripples through the air like sound waves of joy. Jesus watched them fondly. See, on earth they could not forgive each other. But here, the moment they saw truth, forgiveness became inevitable. Pain cannot survive in the presence of perfect understanding. I felt the weight of his words settling deep within me. Jonathan, he said, this is why forgiveness matters so much while you live. Each act of forgiveness is a rehearsal for eternity. When you choose to release resentment, you're preparing your soul for love that knows no bounds. His tone shifted, gentle but urgent. Every choice to love on earth echoes here. Every prayer, every sacrifice, every time you see the best in someone, you're shaping the landscape of eternity. We walked again, and this time the world opened like a vast garden made entirely of memory. The flowers seemed woven from moments of kindness, glowing softly in colors that didn't exist on earth. Each blossom, Jesus said, is a moment when love triumphed over fear. Eternity is built from these moments. I bent down, touching one of the petals. It pulsed beneath my hand, alive with music. Then he added, the person who greets someone home is rarely perfect. Often, they are the ones who loved despite their flaws. Love's power is not in perfection, it's in persistence. As he spoke, a scene unfolded. A woman entering this radiant world, greeted by her brother. His face was radiant, yet his eyes held the memory of struggle. He wrestled with addiction, Jesus explained. He caused her pain, yet he never stopped loving her. His failures did not disqualify him, they refined him. Perfect love flows through imperfect hearts. The brother and sister embraced, and I felt something holy move through me. Jonathan, Jesus said, tell them this. Broken people make the most beautiful greeters in heaven because they know the cost of grace. We stood there for what felt like forever, or maybe no time at all. Eternity, I was learning, didn't move forward or backward. It simply was. He gestured to the horizon again. When someone is greeted here, they are not met by judgment or correction, only by words they've longed their entire lives to hear. I've been waiting for you. I've missed you. Welcome home. I could feel those words resonating through my bones. Some, he continued, never heard such words on earth. But here, every unspoken love, every unsaid, I'm proud of you, every withheld affection is finally spoken aloud. Love finishes every unfinished sentence. The light shifted again, warmer, deeper, and the garden began to hum like a heartbeat. I could sense more stories gathering at the edges of sight, waiting to be told. Jesus turned to me once more. Jonathan, this is only the beginning. You've seen how souls are welcomed. Now you must see what happens next, how the circle widens, how one reunion becomes the celebration of many. He smiled, and as he extended his hand toward me, the horizon itself seemed to open, overflowing with light so vast and alive that it felt like stepping into the heart of creation. And in that endless brilliance, I knew the revelation wasn't ending. It was only deepening. The first reunion, as he had said, was just the beginning. The horizon unfolded like a breathing sky as Jesus guided me deeper into the brilliance. Every ray of light seemed to hum with purpose, and every sound carried meaning that bypassed language. I was entirely. I could feel that we were approaching something sacred, something too immense for words, yet intimate enough to touch my soul. He looked at me, and his expression was both tender and unflinching. Jonathan, he said, what I'm showing you now is not only for comfort, it's for transformation. Love isn't only the destination of eternity, it's the rehearsal ground of every moment on earth. The landscape shimmered with scenes that played out like living parables. I saw people in their final breaths, and beside them, unseen to the living, stood figures radiating quiet anticipation, those who would greet them home. These weren't angels or distant ancestors, but familiar faces, luminous with compassion. Each presence seemed to whisper through the veil, "You're almost home." Then Jesus spoke again. Every act of love, he said, creates an opening between this world and mine. Each time someone chooses compassion instead of judgment, forgiveness instead of pride, they are shaping eternity. We walked past rivers that glowed like melted glass, each ripple shimmering with memories. When I peered into the waters, I didn't see reflections. I saw moments of love, suspended and alive. A father comforting his frightened child. A friend forgiving betrayal. A stranger stopping to help another on a rainy street. These, Jesus said softly, are not forgotten moments. They become structure here, the architecture of heaven's heart. He turned to me with eyes that carried entire galaxies. The person who greets someone home is often the one who taught them how to love in the first place. It might be the mother who forgave, the friend who stayed, the spouse who prayed through storms, or even the stranger who offered hope when no one else did. The weight of his words filled the air with holy gravity. And sometimes, he continued, the greeter is someone who loved through imperfection. He motioned toward a vision that emerged beside us, an embrace between a man and a woman. The man's eyes were humble, filled with sorrow and light at once. He struggled on earth, Jesus explained. Addiction, shame, regret. But through every failure, his love for his sister never died. That love is what qualified him to greet her home. I watched as the woman laughed through tears, clinging to him as if every lost moment between them had been restored. The air pulsed with forgiveness, so pure it felt alive. Perfect love, Jesus said, flows through imperfect vessels. That's been my plan from the beginning. I don't wait for people to be flawless before I use them. I transform the cracks in their hearts into channels where my love can shine through. I couldn't speak. All I could do was weep in silent awe. He continued, "This is why no one should ever doubt their impact. Broken people often make the most radiant welcomers because they understand grace. They've lived it. They've needed it." The words resonated like a bell struck deep within me. We walked again, and the light shifted into 1,000 scenes, each one revealing something new. I saw a woman embraced by an old friend she hadn't spoken to in decades. Their eyes met, and without a word, everything unspoken on earth was completed. Love finishes every unfinished sentence, Jesus said. Every apology left unsaid, every word withheld out of fear, every affection unspoken, it all finds its voice here. The realization pierced me with both comfort and conviction. I thought of people I had failed to thank, moments I'd let pass in silence. Jesus smiled knowingly. "That's why I'm showing you this now, so you'll speak love more freely while you still can. So people will understand that no word of kindness is wasted and no expression of love ever disappears. Every sincere gesture becomes eternal." Then the world changed again, expanding like a symphony of light. I saw souls arriving home, one by one, greeted by those who had loved them best. Yet now I noticed something new. After each embrace, others began to appear, forming circles of joy that widened with every heartbeat. "This," Jesus said, "is how eternity celebrates. One reunion becomes the celebration of many. Every arrival strengthens the whole." The scene shifted until I stood within a vast garden that seemed woven from laughter and memory. Every flower pulsed like a living heartbeat, its color born from moments of love on earth. Some blossoms glowed softly, others shone with fierce brilliance, but all radiated the same melody of belonging. He gestured to the blooms. Each one represents a moment where love triumphed over fear. Eternity is filled with them. Every act of grace, every forgiveness offered, every tear turned into compassion becomes the beauty of this world. I bent down to touch one, and as my fingers brushed its petals, I heard a faint whisper, the echo of someone saying, "I forgive you." The flower brightened. Jesus watched me gently. "See? Love leaves nothing unfinished. It writes its signature in eternity." Then he turned, his expression softening. "But you must understand something deeper still." He motioned, and the garden transformed into a series of encounters. Former spouses embracing with peace, estranged friends laughing together, parents reunited with children lost too soon. None of them carried bitterness or sorrow. They were whole. Eternity, Jesus said, is not a copy of earthly relationships. It's their fulfillment. Every bond purified of pain, every love freed from fear. Hurt people on earth, but here, healed souls love perfectly. He paused, letting the truth breathe. When they meet again, they don't resume their old roles. They celebrate the love that was true between them. What was broken is mended. What was misunderstood becomes clear, and what was lost is found in new form. I could barely hold back tears. The mercy of it was overwhelming. Then his gaze deepened. Forgiveness in eternity isn't earned. It's instant. When souls see each other through the eyes of perfect understanding, judgment collapses into compassion. Every wrong becomes a lesson in love. Every wound becomes a window for grace. I felt that truth press into my heart like light entering dark corners. On earth, he continued, you forgive through faith. Here you forgive through sight. When you see the full story, the pain, the fears, the intentions, you can no longer condemn. You can only love. The landscape shimmered again, now filled with countless souls shining with the glow of understanding. Every first encounter, he said, is built on this. The greeter sees the soul as I've always seen them, beyond mistakes, beyond masks, beyond time. He turned toward me. Imagine if humanity saw through these eyes now. The world would already feel like heaven. For a long while, we walked in silence. Then he spoke again, his tone lighter, almost joyful. Many fear disappointment in eternity, he said, but they don't realize love doesn't erase identity. It perfects it. The shy become radiant with courage, the broken become whole, the weary becomes strength itself. Each soul becomes the most authentic version of who they were always meant to be. I saw it as he described it. People shining with an inner beauty that was not youth or perfection, but truth. Their real selves, unveiled at last. They don't lose who they were, he said. They become the fullness of who they always were to me. It struck me that heaven wasn't about escape. It was about revelation. Love didn't erase the past. It redeemed it. Jesus smiled as he saw understanding dawn in my heart. Now you're beginning to see it, Jonathan. Eternity isn't rest from love. It's the expansion of it. Every arrival adds to its symphony. Every reunion strengthens its harmony. And the one who greets them home begins their eternal purpose, to help others awaken to this same truth. Around us, the air rippled with laughter, song, and light, so alive it almost seemed to dance. Souls newly arrived were walking hand in hand with those who had waited for them. Others were guiding still newer arrivals, showing them the beauty of their new existence. This, he said, is heaven's motion. Love meeting love, forever unfolding. I could feel my spirit trembling under the immensity of it all. Then his voice softened again. Jonathan, I need you to tell them this. Every act of love on earth, no matter how small, is a rehearsal for eternity. Every kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every choice to stay gentle in a hard world, it's all shaping who they'll be here. His gaze pierced through me. They are building eternity right now, one act of love at a time. The realization filled me with awe and responsibility. Jonathan, he said quietly, the way they love today determines the way they will welcome tomorrow. The light swelled around us, golden and infinite, as if heaven itself was listening. And then he added, I'm going to show you what this looks like for you. Before I could ask what he meant, the landscape began to dissolve into colors too pure for words. The sound of distant laughter echoed through the air, familiar somehow like a melody I'd known in childhood. When the colors settled, I found myself standing in my grandmother's kitchen. The scent of baked bread and basil filled the air, and sunlight poured through the lace curtains just as it had when I was a boy. And there, smiling, radiant, and more alive than ever, stood my grandmother, Maria. Her eyes shone with tears and joy as she whispered my name, Jonathan. When my grandmother spoke my name, the sound felt like sunlight breaking through centuries of silence. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed hearing it until that moment. The room, the kitchen, was exactly as I remembered from childhood. Yellow curtains glowing with afternoon light, the faint scent of tomato sauce, the hum of a world that had never known sorrow. It wasn't nostalgia. It was restoration. Everything broken by time had been mended here. Nana, I whispered, my voice trembling with both joy and disbelief. She smiled, and in that smile was the entire history of our love. The nights she stayed up praying for me, the laughter that once filled our small house, the way she used to press a cross into my palm before I left for school. My beautiful boy, she said, reaching up to cup my face as she had when I was little. Her hands were warm, alive, and real. I've been waiting for this moment. All the years of missing her collapsed into that single second. My heart broke open, and everything I had carried, grief, guilt, longing, poured out at once. I've missed you so much, I managed between tears. There were so many times I needed you. So many moments when I didn't know what to do. She drew me into her arms, holding me as though she could gather every scattered piece of my soul back together. "Oh, my sweet boy," she murmured, her voice soft and strong. "I never left you. Every time you felt alone, every time you doubted yourself, I was there. When you questioned whether you were worthy of the work God gave you, I prayed for you. When you felt unworthy of portraying Him, I asked Him to remind you that He chose you because you are imperfect. That's what makes the message real." Her words sank deeper than comfort. They felt like truth being stitched into me. I could see now that the love I thought I had lost had never disappeared. It had only changed form. Then Jesus, who had been standing quietly nearby, stepped closer. His presence filled the room without diminishing her light. "Jonathan," he said, "your grandmother has been preparing for this encounter since the moment she arrived here. She wanted to be the one to confirm what you've seen, that love never ends." Maria nodded, wiping tears from her eyes that sparkled like pearls. "I asked Him if I could be the one," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I wanted to tell you myself that everything He's shown you about first encounters is true." She took my hands, and I felt the same familiar roughness from years of kneading bread, sewing clothes, and serving family. "When my time came," she said softly, "I wasn't afraid. I knew I was going to love, and I was right. When I opened my eyes here, I was surrounded by everyone who had ever loved me. My parents, my husband, friends from every stage of my life. It was like waking up inside a hug that never ends." I swallowed hard, trying to absorb it all. "But that wasn't even the most beautiful part," she continued, her eyes shining with a light that didn't come from this world. "The most beautiful part was realizing that I wasn't just here to be loved. I was here to love others, to welcome them home. Every prayer I prayed for you, every meal I made, every time I held you when you were scared, it all prepared me for this. I'm part of God's welcoming family now. That love didn't stop when my heart stopped beating on earth. It simply began again here." Tears streamed down my face. The ache that had lived inside me for 10 years began to dissolve, replaced by warmth so radiant it almost hurt to feel. Jesus placed His hand on both of ours, His expression filled with the kind of affection that carries eternity in it. "This is what I want people to understand," He said. "Every grandmother like Maria, every parent, every friend who learns to love selflessly is being shaped into a vessel of my welcome. Heaven's greeters are not chosen for perfection. They're chosen for love." My grandmother squeezed my hand, her grip firm and steady. "Jonathan," she said, her voice trembling with purpose, "there are people right now who are watching your videos, crying for someone they've lost. They wonder if they'll ever see them again. They doubt that their love still matters. I want you to tell them, from me, that love is eternal. The love they gave and received didn't vanish. It's alive. It's working right now. preparing for their reunion. Her words wrapped around me like music. And you must tell them, she added, that the love they are giving today, to their children, their friends, even strangers, is building eternity. Every kind act, every prayer, every moment of patience is qualifying them to be someone's first glimpse of home. They're not just living, they're preparing for their eternal purpose. Jesus' voice joined hers, rich and resonant. That's what your grandmother meant, Jonathan, when she said she was excited to meet everyone else. She understood that eternity isn't only about being received, it's about receiving others. It's not just coming home, it's helping others find home. Love isn't static. It moves, it multiplies, it circles endlessly between hearts. My grandmother's eyes glistened as she leaned closer. I need you to remember this next part, she said. It's the most important thing anyone can know. The air seemed to still. Even the light around us waited. The person who will greet someone home, she said slowly, is probably someone they're thinking about right now. Someone whose love shaped them, whose presence brought comfort, whose memory still brings peace. That bond isn't nostalgia. It's prophecy. It's a preview of their homecoming. Her tears fell freely now, each one glowing like a drop of sunlight. But here's the miracle, she continued. They might also be that person for someone else, someone they love today, someone they're helping through quiet kindness, through patience, through prayer. That person may one day see them as the first glimpse of home. Every act of love carries eternal consequence. Every genuine kindness changes the shape of heaven. Jesus smiled at her words. This is why I came to earth, he said softly, to show the world that love is the center of everything. Every embrace between parent and child, every friendship born of faithfulness, every stranger helped in secret. All of it is sacred. Each act of love adds to the community of heaven. Every soul who loves becomes part of the divine welcome. I could barely breathe under the beauty of it. My grandmother drew me back into her arms, her embrace overflowing with both joy and strength. You see, Jonathan, she whispered, I'm not resting here. I'm serving. We're all serving. We pray for you. We prepare for you. We celebrate your every act of love. Eternity isn't rest from love. It's graduation into perfect love. Her words echoed through me like a promise. Jesus looked toward her, then to me. Everything she said is true, he confirmed. The souls you think are gone are more alive than ever. They are not idle. They're partnering with my Father's love. They're helping prepare the way for you. Every step you take toward compassion brings heaven closer to earth. My grandmother nodded, her face glowing with pride. Jonathan, she said, when you share this message, remember, you're not just describing eternity. You're awakening people to it. You're giving them permission to believe their love matters infinitely more than they've ever realized. She squeezed my hand again. Tell them that every word of kindness, every act of grace, every moment of forgiveness builds bridges they'll cross again. Tell them that when they pass from this world, they'll be met not by mystery, but by memory, by faces they've loved and prayers they've inspired. Her expression grew radiant, like someone seeing the horizon from both sides. And tell them this, she said through tears of joy. When their time comes, they don't need to be afraid. Love is waiting for them, alive, personal, and ready. Someone who knows their heart is standing right beyond the veil, arms open, smile wide, whispering, welcome home. Jesus reached for me, his touch light yet grounding, as though he were anchoring me between worlds. Jonathan, he said, this encounter isn't just revelation, it's invitation. I want you to live what you've seen, love more freely, forgive more quickly, appreciate more deeply, see every relationship as eternal training for heaven. My grandmother's laughter filled the room, a melody I hadn't heard in a decade. She kissed my forehead the way she used to after bedtime prayers. "I'll be here when your journey ends," she said. "But until then, keep loving, like eternity depends on it, because it does." The light around us began to change, softening into a glow that felt both final and eternal. Jesus' gaze locked on mine, carrying both peace and purpose. "Go back," he said, "and tell them what you've seen. Tell them that love is the thread that binds every soul. Tell them that their first encounter in eternity will not be a stranger. It will be love itself, wearing the face that means home." As he spoke, the kitchen began to fade. My grandmother's voice lingered, bright and certain. "Every goodbye on earth is just 'see you later' from heaven's perspective. We're not gone. We're just ahead, preparing the table, lighting the lamps, getting everything ready for your arrival." And then everything dissolved into light. Pure, endless light that felt like the heartbeat of love itself. The light surrounding us began to thin like morning mist. Yet the warmth of heaven clung to me as though love itself refused to let go. Jesus stood between my grandmother and me, his presence radiant but peaceful, and I knew this sacred encounter was reaching its end. I didn't want it to fade. I didn't want to return, but he looked at me with a knowing smile, the kind that carried both tenderness and command. "Jonathan," he said softly, "what you've seen here isn't for you to keep. It's for the hearts still searching for hope. You must go back and tell them what love truly is." My grandmother's eyes shimmered with tears that seemed to glow from within. "He's right, my boy," she said, squeezing my hand. "This message isn't just a story. It's a lifeline. People are walking through their days burdened with fear and grief, thinking love ends when life does. You have to tell them it doesn't. Tell them it grows." I nodded, though my throat ached with the weight of leaving. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. "Love doesn't lose power after death. It expands. Every act of kindness, every prayer, every moment someone chooses compassion becomes part of eternity's foundation. What you do now shapes what you will step into later." The words seemed to carve themselves into my heart. I felt their truth reverberate like a bell ringing through my soul. My grandmother smiled through her tears. "And tell them I'm not gone. None of us are. We're home, just ahead of you, preparing everything for when you arrive. Every goodbye is only a promise, disguised as distance." She leaned in, pressing her forehead against mine, like she used to when I was a child, afraid of storms. "You have to remember this part, Jonathan," she whispered. "No one crosses alone. Love is waiting for them. The kind of love that knows their laugh, their voice, their soul. Someone who understands their journey completely will be standing there, ready to say, 'Welcome home.'" The kitchen light grew brighter until the air itself seemed to sing. Jesus' voice carried through that radiance like music made of peace. "What you've seen is invitation, not information," he said. "Invite them to live as if eternity has already begun, to love as though heaven is being built with every heartbeat." I turned to my grandmother one last time. "Nana," I said, choking on emotion, "how will I know you're still with me?" She laughed, a sound full of joy and sunlight. "You'll know every time you love without holding back. Every time you forgive even when it hurts. Every time you comfort someone the way I used to comfort you. That's me. That's us. That's love continuing its work." Then she kissed my forehead, the way she always did after evening prayers. "Go now, my boy," she whispered, "and when you tell them what you saw, speak it like you believe it, because it's real." The light pulsed once, twice, and then everything dissolved into brightness so complete that it was impossible to tell where heaven ended and I began. When I opened my eyes, I was back in my room. The air still carried that same stillness, the kind that hums after a sacred moment. For a long time, I couldn't move. Every word, every image, every heartbeat of that encounter was as vivid as if it were still happening. I didn't wake with confusion. I woke with conviction. I knew beyond question that this message wasn't just for me. It was for anyone who has ever cried themselves to sleep missing someone they love. For anyone afraid of dying alone. For anyone who has ever wondered if love is enough. So here's what I want you to understand. From the deepest truth of that experience. When your time comes to cross from this life into the next, you will not step into darkness. You will not be met by silence. You will awaken to the face of love, the one that feels most like home. It may be a parent, a child, a friend, or even someone whose quiet prayers carried you when you didn't know. Whoever it is, they've been preparing since the moment love first connected you. You won't be lost. You'll be found completely. And if you're still here reading this, breathing in this world, it means your purpose isn't finished. It means there are still people you're meant to love, still hearts you're meant to comfort, still acts of kindness you're meant to give that will echo in eternity. Every moment you choose love over fear, forgiveness over anger, tenderness over apathy, you're building the very bridges that souls will one day walk across into their forever home. That's what Jesus wanted me to see. That's what my grandmother lived. Love isn't preparation for heaven. Love is heaven beginning its work on earth. When I returned from that encounter, something in me had changed forever. I noticed how I looked at people differently. I spoke slower, listened longer, forgave faster. I stopped treating small kindnesses as small things. Every hug, every shared laugh, every prayer whispered for someone who'll never know. It all felt like sacred architecture being built in invisible hands. I no longer fear loss. I no longer dread endings. Because now I know. Love doesn't collapse when the body fails. It simply changes form and waits for us to catch up. And if you are grieving right now, if your chest aches from missing someone, hear this. The ache is proof of connection, not separation. It's love stretching between two worlds, holding both until the day the distance disappears. Your tears are not wasted. They water the very ground of reunion. For those afraid of the future, remember, love is already there, waiting. There's a hand prepared to hold yours, a voice ready to speak your name, a familiar embrace waiting to remind you that nothing truly ends in God's design. And for those still walking this earth, let this truth sink deep. Your love matters infinitely more than you realize. Every kind word, every patient gesture, every moment you choose understanding instead of judgment shapes eternity itself. You might be the person someone will meet first in eternity. You might be their glimpse of home. So love boldly. Love consistently. Love as if the universe is being rebuilt with every act of compassion. Because it is. When people ask me now what I believe about death, I tell them I don't think of it as an ending anymore. It's more like a curtain lifting. On a continuation, the scene changes but the story remains the same. The author never stops writing. And one day, when my own curtain rises again, I know exactly who I'll see first. My grandmother, her hands still warm, her eyes still laughing through tears, whispering, "I told you love never ends." Before I close this message, I want to offer a prayer, one that feels less like words and more like breathing. Father, Thank you for every person hearing this right now. Thank you for loving them in ways beyond their comprehension. Remind them that their relationships are sacred, that every act of kindness is a seed of eternity, that they are seen, known, and never alone. For those who are grieving, wrap them in the assurance that love never dies, it only transforms. For those afraid of what's next, replace fear with wonder. Let them feel the presence of the ones who have gone before, still loving them from beyond the veil. And remind us all that heaven is closer than we think, because love is already here. In Jesus' name, amen. If this message touched something inside you, it's because truth always feels familiar. It's the sound of home calling your heart. Remember, your story isn't over, your love isn't wasted, and every goodbye is only see you soon. Love is the beginning, the middle, and the end of everything that matters. And when you finally open your eyes in eternity, love will be the first thing you see.